Hello everybody. So this video is a story of free stocks, a story of stocks that I've covered for over 2 years that have been consistently dismissed by things like analog thinking, what I call analog thinking, pre-digital era thinking, things that I call 20th century rent seeking and old frames of mind as to what are earnings, what businesses should do, how businesses should behave. The ideas such as, patents are so valuable. Oh, you should focus on rent seeking and upcharging the customer. And can you charge a premium? Can you rip off your customers? Because that's how the 20th century business thrives. Also, this is a YouTube entertainment story versus an expert story, because I am an entertainer, and so I'm not an expert, right? I'm not a Wall Street expert, and as a result of that, of course, my investments are of a much lower quality. And in this channel, I just document my investments. I don't say anything. I don't say it's just entertainment. It's not advice. There's no financial advice ever. And this entertainment, has gotten me behind some what is shaping up to be some of the best investments of my life. MicroStrategy, Tesla, HIMS. Go back to the early days of the channel more than 2 years ago. All of these free stocks I covered. I remember the very first videos of the channel when I had 80 people following me. I had made a whole series of like 13 episodes about Tesla and why I like it. Now, Tesla, there's a lot of people who cover Tesla, so I don't cover Tesla every day because everybody else covers Tesla. But MicroStrategy, it feels so good. To see that the market is beginning to see what I see in this stock, and HIMS is the same way. Sure, HIMS was down a little bit over the past few days. To me, it's just temporary. I think these companies have a superior business model, and they are in a superior opportunity space, in my view. And those opportunity spaces, I see them in three blocks, and these companies represent these three blocks. The first opportunity space is simple energy. If you get down the rabbit hole of fiat and money, you realize that money is just saved energy. You're in your 20s, you work an extra 10 hours, you want to save those 10 hours for you 50 years down the road. You can't do that with fiat. You can't do that with modern banking as it works. You can't do that with insurance as it works. And Bitcoin and blockchain is disrupting that. A lot of the remnant of many companies that are Web 2.0, we're slowly realizing they can be replaced by full blockchains with nobody behind them, with no employees behind them. Of course, that's one aspect. The bigger aspect of Web 3.0 is without a profit. You can just have a blockchain run the thing, run the website, run the app. It can all just be run by a blockchain. And then the users of the apps become the beneficiary of the apps. Like, this is the same story as Bitcoin. Who benefits the most from a Bitcoin standard? The Bitcoin owners, right? If this is the same concept, an ancient concept as the mutual, the idea of a mutual. If you own a mutual, if you're a client of a mutual, you're also a shareholder of a mutual. That's what happens when you entirely rethink the shape of business and how businesses should work. And when you start thinking about having a flat money supply, a money supply that is sufficient to itself. We don't need to print more money if technology exists, and technology makes the costs go down and down and always down. We can be fine just owning the land and letting our land yield more and more and more every year for us via technological evolution. And so disruption of energy is what I put Bitcoin at and blockchain at. And it is no surprise that blockchains like Bitcoin itself, takes 5% of the energy of the world to run. It is no surprise to me. The second big resolution, the second big bucket is intelligence. And its replacement of biointelligence, human labor. And so this is of course has been a real topic for the past 20 years in factories, right? The days of the Chinese inexpensive worker, that's a 20-year-old story now. Of course, automation, the disruption of bio labor has been going on for 20 years, but today it's the disruption of biointelligence, the disruption of labor itself by AI. And that's what I put Tesla in there. What's most person's job when most person's job is to be a part-time driver, and they may disrupt that. Tesla may disrupt that. So then everybody stops being a part-time driver. So you're replacing a biointelligence, you're replacing that by labor by an AI, intelligent labor by an AI. To me, that's the disruption intelligence. That's the fundamental bucket that I put Tesla in. Tesla is much more than an EV company for me. I put it as an intelligence company, an artificial intelligence company at that. And the last one, which is HIMS. I've been working on these buckets for a while, video after video. The last missing piece, we have energy, and money is energy, or energy is money. We have intelligence. The last missing piece is time. That's the last missing piece. We need to deal with time. And how do you deal with time? You deal with time by disrupting healthcare. And of course, if you follow people much smarter than me, all of the greatest billionaires of today, they are huge into health, and they are following that space very, very closely and investing in it, because that's the next big shift. The next big shift is this, and that's why I invest in HIMS, and I have my own thoughts about health and disruption of health, and that's a big topic on the channel. Here you go, you have the 3 big topics on my channel: disruption of money, disruption of intelligence, and disruption of time. So let's go and let's get started with a little celebration about MicroStrategy. The megatrend number 1 is Bitcoin. But you don't have to call it Bitcoin. You can call it digital currencies. You can call it blockchain. You can call it miner stocks. You can call it, this is going to make a lot of Bitcoin maxis pretty upset, but you can call it crypto. I'm not a maxi. I'm not anti-crypto. In fact, if you follow Michael Saylor, you may notice that he's becoming less and less of a maxi. Web 3.0, right? That's coming. That's one of the next big waves. Digital finance. My best example is 9 people at Tether, right? The issue of a stable coin. And the 9 people working at Tether make as much money as the 45,000 employees of Goldman Sachs. That's mind-boggling. That's just the disruption. Many orders of magnitude of a disruption. For the longest time, I thought Bitcoin was the best play in this field, and it made me sad because, of course, I'm a stocks guy first and foremost. With MicroStrategy, I now found Bitcoin on steroid, which is a company built on Bitcoin, which is what MicroStrategy is. And now MicroStrategy outweighs Bitcoin for me. And I love the stock very much. And turns out, to see MicroStrategy, you have to move beyond TradFi. And imagine all the things you need to understand a thesis like MicroStrategy. You need to understand Bitcoin. That's already, as we say sometimes, right? It's 10,000 hours, 5 years, what people say to be an expert. That's already that on learning. But on top of that, to understand MicroStrategy, you also need to have a novel first principles understanding of finance and how finance works. What do I mean by that, right? MicroStrategy focuses on economics value creation. It doesn't focus on accounting. It doesn't focus on posting earnings, right? And that's how you get people not understanding and screaming margin call and being all, not seeing it. And the market is understanding today, because whenever MicroStrategy does an ATM, the stock barely moves, right? Any ATM should make a stock drop 30 to 40%. Not in the case of MicroStrategy. The more he does an ATM, the more the black hole spins faster, and the more he can charge for the next ATMs, the bigger NAV he can charge, the more he can charge for the convertible bonds. It's a self-reinforcing loop. And to understand that, one has to understand that really the goal of a company should not be to pay a dividend. The goal of a company should not be to pay a buyback, to do a stock buyback. The goal of a company may be to just acquire Bitcoin. That may be the goal of a company, to just acquire as much money as you can, and at least until the transition to a new financial system happens, hold the Bitcoin. And then we can debate again. We can debate once again as to whether the company should do a buyback or not. Right? Companies have been doing buybacks. Why? Because they know fiat is melting, so they bought themselves. But the problem is that when you do a buyback, the management team of a company is very biased. They want to buy back their own stock because it helps them beat earnings per share, because they're judged on earnings per share. And so you beat earnings per share by doing a buyback. You don't beat earnings per share by actually increasing the E. Hopefully you do both. But Apple increases earnings per share thanks to the buyback. And so that's the strategy that they come up with. But that may not be as good of a strategy as buying Bitcoin. And so to come to that realization, takes a lot of thinking on your own without input from anybody else. And money enters the business in many, many ways. People who invest in early companies, in pre-revenue companies, get that intuitively. But for most people who don't do that, for most people who look at the top line, and I include myself in this, I should also be looking at the money entering the business via the cash flow statement. Money enters the business via the cash flow statement too. And maybe we should analyze companies on their ability to acquire funds both via the revenue line, the software business for MicroStrategy, and also via the cash flow statement, which is not revenue, which is debt. You're issuing debt, but at the end, or new shares. But at the end of the day, the result is the same. At the end of the day, you're getting new money into the company. So of course, this is what banks do. Banks track their deposits, right? Why doesn't every company do that? Well, every company can do that because nowadays, if you issue new shares and you put that money into Bitcoin, the risk that you take on as a buyer of those new shares is the risk of Bitcoin. You don't get the risk of 20th century empire building. You don't get the risk of financing and acquisition. No, you know the money is going to be converted to Bitcoin. And that's the beauty of Saylor. And I anticipate a lot of companies are going to do that. And this is the black hole theory, the simple theory. You try to get as much of an existing financial system to buy your stock. And whenever they buy your stock, you just put it into Bitcoin. You don't put in less accretive business endeavors. And this is a very Austrian way of thinking. This is what Saylor always talks about. And Bitcoiners always talk about that. Imagine if we were under a Bitcoin standard, probably a lot of the businesses that we have today would disappear. Businesses who don't break eventually, say, a 15 to 20% a year return, all of those businesses would die because Bitcoin over the long term likely is going to see a return closer to 20%, right? And so any business endeavor needs to beat the Bitcoin return to justify existing. Under the fiat standard, you can buy an apartment building with a 6% cap rate. That's an artifact of the fiat standard. That is not an artifact of the natural state of things, of the pre-Medici, the story of humanity until the Middle Age. Always required a much greater interest for any money being borrowed, just because when you borrow money, there was a real risk of losing that money for the lender. And unfortunately, today, money is just printed. Anyways, sorry about tangent. This video is full of tangent. Let's go to stock number 2. So, of course, stock number 2 is the intelligence revolution, as I call it. You may be more familiar with people at a more precise level of analysis. They'll tell you it's the electric energy, the electric vehicle revolution, the AI revolution. That's what you see when you zoom in. But this is a zooming out video, and in my view, the story of Tesla is a story about intelligence, business intelligence, but also artificial intelligence, also intelligence in how you manufacture a product, intelligence into how you think about your products. And if you look at the early days, the early history of Tesla, Tesla got started from computing. It's important to note. the very idea of Tesla was not a smartphone on wheels, as I call Tesla sometimes, but it was rather a laptop on wheels. The early days, it came from a calculation that you could have a car be powered by these brand new laptop batteries that you had in compact laptops, and they were like, okay, well, what if we were to put together hundreds of these teeny tiny laptop batteries? Could we make a car? So already the company was built from a tech cost curve. It was built from a tech angle. It was never built on legacy auto ideas. It was always built on tech ideas and on kind of industry 2.0, new industry idea. And of course, many of us, many of you probably see the AI revolution via NVIDIA. And that's because NVIDIA is clearly as pure play as it gets. It's as pure play as it gets. But to me, AI is mostly an AI play, at least when it comes to the valuation of the stock. The stock of Tesla is valued so high mostly because of its AI play, not because they are going to take over the car market, which I also believe they will do. And that's probably because their cars will be smart cars, intelligent cars, right? And the other cars, well, unless they license it from Tesla, I doubt that's going to happen. You saw the GM news, GM abandoning the robotaxi business. So Tesla is a seller of intelligence, a manufacturer of intelligence. What do? They do robot on wheels. Some people call that cars. Some people call that EVs. But it's a robot on wheel. Now they do robotaxis. Optimus, right? You all saw that video probably of Optimus just walking on a parking lot, avoiding a fall, fully from machine learning. That was very impressive in my view. It's the use of AI in design, in manufacturing. If you follow Tesla closely, you know that they use the AI to manufacture the Tesla product. You know that the molds, the casts, for example, it's all AI designed. AI is used all over. And in fact, when Elon Musk doesn't use AI to manufacture something, he goes out and says, we didn't use AI for that. That's why he took so much pride into the Starship project, saying, well, you won't believe it or not, this is not made by AI. But if you follow Tesla, it's a lot of use of AI in the manufacturing. It's the same story for NVIDIA. NVIDIA manufactures its chips a lot with AI, using AI. And so I anticipate the movie studios, if they are able to overcome the innovator's dilemma, they will use AI to make their movies Gen AI. If not, they'll be replaced by new companies that make movies based on AI. But Tesla is more than a tech company in my view. And this is also a category that I could create. It's a 0 to 1 company. It's a post PayPal Mafia company. And there's PayPal Mafia is probably gosh, you can see Microsoft is not being good at autocorrect. Anyways, why would they? Anyways, sorry, I get distracted. Tesla is a 0 to 1 company. A 0 to 1 company. It's a new idea. It's the idea of a PayPal Mafia. It's the idea that when you make a product so much better, you're gonna become a monopoly really, really quickly. When you change something and when your business is so good, you're gonna become a monopoly so quick. And if you follow Tesla, how much better is it to buy a car online? To me, it's probably 100 times better. How much better is it to not have to go to a gas station? Same, probably 100 times better. How much better is it that your car is also a battery that can power your home? And if you're a home with a bunch of people and you have 2 electric cars, well, you got backup for 10 days in those cars, right? The battery, you're not just buying a car, you're also buying a battery that's going to have a dual purpose, bidirectional charging. You're not using a flow. So think about how wasteful oil is. You're using a flow in the process. You're not manufacturing tangible. Using oil to manufacture plastic, I love it. It's first principles thinking. Oil for plastic is you're manufacturing something durable, but that's not what we do. We just burn it and we barely capture any energy. That's no first principle thinking. We create so much waste. Vertical integration, which is the very story of 21st century business. Vertical integration, the idea that yes, you can do it all. Yes, you can have specialized knowledge. Yes, you can run the company in a very lean way, and you can be so lean, and you can be even leaner with the coming of AI agents. And so, yes, it makes more sense to create your own brand than to just acquire an old brand. And Musk really intuitively understands that. That's why he had no hesitation changing from Twitter to X. Because the values of the past, like branding, for example, those values are mostly gone. I still have people arguing with me, oh, brand is a very important thing. Well, I don't think so. I think brands have a much shorter lifespan today. Anyways, you get that this is an entertainment piece. Oh gosh, my accent. This is an entertainment piece. You get that. This is not fact. I'm just entertaining you with my thoughts here. All right, let's move to Megatrend number 3, the healthcare revolution. So in this area, of course, my big stock, which is winning, is HIMS. And HIMS is still going through the motions of people downgrading, upgrading. It's a small cap. So the market is really just ping-ponging it around. It's just bouncing it around. And I like HIMS very much. And HIMS is frankly the main company that I find, I find it acceptable to have nearly a 7% position for HIMS for me in the portfolio, because the business model I find genius, and it doesn't depend on a few decision makers. And that's going to be part of a discussion. Part of my goal in 2025 is to cover Megatrend number 3, to cover the healthcare revolution, because CRISPR, what they did for sickle cell disease is unheard of. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Genmab, what they're doing with their antibody therapies, I also find it absolutely amazing. Lantheus, use of radioactive isotopes to kill cancer, I also find this quite amazing. There's so much revolution happening in this space, but this space just gets dismissed, forgotten. The best example of why this space is forgotten right now is that, look at this. Everything has been running. The past 3 months, everything has been running. What hasn't been running? This space. The health space hasn't been running, aside from HIMS. And I believe HIMS is early, because HIMS in that story, HIMS, they disrupt the insurance business. I mean, that's a big part of the story. HIMS attacks the cost. They attack the cost of healthcare for the minor stuff. In my view, HIMS, old world 20th century thinking is, oh, they don't accept insurance, they're not going to make it. The way I think is, oh, they don't accept insurance. Because of that, they can have clear pricing. They can do whatever they want. Within the limits of the field and the law and health and ethics and all of that. But they are much more free, right? They don't have to comply with whatever the insurance says needs to be done for reimbursement. And I've been reading much more about insurance companies. The insurance business is all about setting up a trap to make sure that, have a doctor note wasn't written the way you specifically wanted written, you just deny that claim. Like a big part of the insurance business is to fight and try to do your best to pay less for healthcare providers. And so removing insurance entirely from the process can be done for minor stuff. I don't deny that it's going to be tough to be done for things like curing 2.3 million for sickle cell disease. That's going to be tough to remove it, but you can remove it for the minor stuff. You can remove it for the minor stuff, and so Wall Street dismisses HIMS as just an ED pill company. Now today we're in the phase we're dismissing it as just a GLP-1 story, as if weight loss was not a big quest. As if people were not suffering from weight loss. This is not something that people have been trying to fix for so many years. So no, in reality, the way I view HIMS is that I view it as a vertically integrated health brand or health company for the minor health stuff, for the small issues. Your BMI is a 31. Why don't you go see HIMS? We're gonna help you get you closer to a 25. That's the minor stuff. right? It's not a big stuff. And for this, I don't think you need insurance. And that's why I think they've been attacking this space of healthcare the right way. And how do I describe HIMS? I describe it like this, and I added something to this my usual description. But HIMS is a digital doctor and a digital pharmacy and newly a maker of drugs. And that's going to be more and more like this because of their recent acquisition of this California lab. And it's all of this together without insurance. And think about all of the middlemen that you are removing in the process. You're removing a whole bunch of middlemen in the process. And that's why they're catching on, and that's why their revenue growth is accelerating, and I love it very much. And HIMS is still dirt cheap. If you look at this is what I have my Patreon. This is all of the healthcare stocks that I track. If you're on the Patreon, you know there's no sector that looks this green. This is like the greenest of all of the sectors as far as valuation goes. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Why is it so cheap? People are sleeping on this opportunity, and you know they sleep on Tesla, for example. Tesla moves in 5-year cycles. The market will sleep on Tesla for 4 years, and then it will be awakened on year 5. And so Tesla, it seems like the market is getting awakened. You know, MicroStrategy, same. MicroStrategy had a period of sleep. The market was sleeping on it for 1.5 years, right? At some point, I don't think the market's going to keep sleeping on this one, because if you look at a company like CRISPR and what they did for sickle cell disease, well, it's absolutely stunning. And I was talking because of my significant other. I hang out with a lot of doctors. I was talking to a doctor. They didn't know. They didn't know. Doctors don't necessarily know that this has been solved. Like, you know, they're caught in the day-to-day. It takes a while for them to catch up with all of the new treatments. But what's going on with CRISPR and sickle cell disease is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Now, the problem is it cost $2.3 million, and so insurance companies rushed to say, we're not paying. That's not happening. You're dreaming. We're not paying for that. And of course, you know, they do that with, so they don't pay for the minor stuff. They don't pay for the big stuff. It's just I think it's the business that really needs disruption, because when that happens, a lot of these advances will be available. You know, this is the same story of Genmab. You know, I remember seeing the CEO of Genmab. You know, I know we are approved for late stage cervical cancer where other treatments haven't worked. There's a long thing of what we're approved in the late stage, blah, 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 blah. So you still got to go for the chemo, but the CEO is insisting, well, actually, you can start right away. Yeah, you can start right away, but the problem is that it's a $50,000 to $60,000 treatment for their bestseller. It's roughly $60,000. And so the insurance is like, well, why don't we treat you with chemo first? And chemo, by the way, is just made out of some tree, some British tree. Doing my I mean, there's many different chemo treatments, but it's chemo is you know, it's brute force. It's really brute force. It's not high couture, right? Using you know, computer designed antibodies to target cancer. That's high couture. That's high tech. That's modern day. If you're doing chemo, you're using the bazooka, right? That's why it messes up a whole sorts of other areas when people use chemo. But guess what? It's the cheapest treatment. So the whole system, in my view, is gonna see a lot of revolution. There's gonna be a lot of revolution, and of course, sickle cell disease is not very well known. But if you follow CRISPR, you know they're working on leukemia of different forms, and you know they're working on type 1 diabetes, to the point that when they bring up type 1 diabetes on the call, the analysts are like, what about type 2 diabetes? And then you're getting into a condition that affects so many people, it's not even funny. And so people are going to find out that there's health treatments that are huge revolutions out there, and they're going to want access to these treatments. And so insurance might not be part of a solution to getting access to these treatments. You know, they may have to price these treatments for the mass market and come with some sort of mass market pricing. And so what that means is that maybe the newer healthcare company who just decides to go straight to market and sells straight to the end consumer without accepting insurance. You know, what if that were the way to go? I don't know. That's one of my big goals for 2025. It's one of my big goals for 2025 to analyze how that's going to work. Because if within 10 years we have common cancers that are cured for like $2 or $3 million, there's gonna need to be a new business model on this. And HIMS right now, they don't have to figure that out because they've already figured that their business model, because they focus on the minor stuff. I think there's gonna be disruption in the big stuff too. And I'm excited to look at these future opportunities. So anyways, today is a celebration day for MicroStrategy and Tesla. Let's call it today is a celebration month for HIMS because it's a little down, but I wanted to include it in today's video. So thank you so much for watching this entertainment. This is entertainment only. No investment advice, no financial advice ever on this channel. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.